This here's just a quick little look at the Bantam Magnumlite 1500XSG Plus. It's kind of like a little bit of a pretty similar to the 2000 SG Plus. Basically, pretty much well the same specs, maybe a little bit different here and there. To me, I mean, honestly, I mean, I'm sure opinions might vary, but you know, really to me, it's more of an aesthetic change, whereas compared to the 2000 SG, this here is pretty much well trimmed out in white instead of the typical gold. This here is actually the Bantam Magnumlite 2000 SG Plus. Both of them are the Plus models that have the fighting drag, which basically locks the drag from being able to move, and of course being able to flip it back up instantly, and allowing you to have your slip clutch drag. If you're looking at them, they're very similar. If you notice that the 2000 actually has the trimmed in gold, and the 1500 is pretty much well trimmed in sort of a little bit of a dirty white. I mean, really, aside from looking at them, as far as trim, I mean, I'm sure inside they might vary to some degree as being slightly different from one another, but really on the exterior, pretty much well they look the same. Without putting a caliper on them or anything else like that, I mean, just from the layman's term of view, to the layman's eye, pretty much well look the same. They each come with the classic 80's sidestep reel release button here. Pretty much well the same in the back. The handles pretty much well look the same. And what I have found here is I've been using the spider wire stealth braid. It's kind of very reluctant to move to this, but I kind of figured, well, you know, I've been seeing a lot of people say, hey, this stuff casts a lot easier, and you know, I really like it over the monofilament, and you know, I've been kind of a fan of spider wire. I started using the Easy Fluoro. Stuff is pretty decent for the most part. I really honestly couldn't tell a whole lot of difference from the monofilament. It didn't twist up quite as easy as what some of the other stuff was, but I can honestly say that using the braid these last few times out, definitely smoother. You don't seem to have the issues that you do with the Fluoro or the monofilament. And yeah, I kind of got to give a shout out to the spider wire, the folks at Spider Wire. Definitely a superior product. And you know, I grew up in the 80's, and you know, everything was either Berkeley Trilene or Stren, and I've come to find that, you know, those products have since come and gone as far as their, you know, state-of-the-art reliability. You know, I'm sure there's some fans out there of it and swears by it, and the way I look at it, to each his own. You know, if that's what works for you, great, keep using it. But you know, from a personal aspect, you know, this is what works for me, and this is what I found that I definitely feel more comfortable using. And you know, it's kind of a step up, at least in my opinion, for what it's worth. And you know, but again, to each his own. And you know, I'm sure that there will be a lot of folks out there to disagree with me, but you know, that's totally your opinion. But again, one of the reasons I decided to go ahead and do this is the total lack of video that you see on anywhere. I mean, you don't see videos on YouTube, you don't see anything out there on these classic, you know, 26, 27, 28-year-old reels. I mean, there's just nothing. The pictures are complete trash that you see on YouTube, or excuse me, on eBay. And you know, when I started, you know, I owned these reels first of all back in the 80's. You know, I've had long service out of them. I really love those reels, and you know, kind of got pushed by the wayside, and I decided, hey, it's time to live my childhood out again. So I ended up and purchased all these off of eBay, and I've been collecting a lot of the Bantam Magnumlite series. You know, I definitely really don't want to, you know, say how I want to use these as my daily users or daily drivers or whatever, but you know, I've tried to find less than perfect examples of these that I could just use, so I don't feel so bad if I do happen to get a scratch on them or whatever. But these are more or less for just my personal collection to look at. The 1500 here I've taken out once, but pretty much, well, it's going to go back in the case and back inside the protective covers and everything else. But if I find another 1500 here in the next couple weeks or few months, I'll definitely put a good bid out on it and hopefully win it and be able to use it. But these, for the most part, are just me to look at and kind of stare at for the most part. And but like I said, there's just hardly anything out there that has a good video on these or what they really look like, or unless you were one of the kids like me that would literally sit there and stare at them at the case at Kmart, of all places, believe it or not, back in the late 1980s. You just didn't really you just don't really see any kind of a video or a good example of them. I was lucky enough that I won these reels at a really good price off of eBay, and I've been really happy with my sellers that I got them from, and I've had nothing but good things to say about each one of them and these reels. But again, I hope I gave you a better idea of what you may be looking at, or what you may have bid on, or what you're thinking about bidding on eBay, because from an aspect of technology, like I said in my last review with the 2000 series, this is pretty much well state-of-the-art back in the 80s, that you would see your bigger bass fishermen that were on TV, like Jimmy Houston and all them guys, for the most part, that was sponsored by Bantam and Shimano. This is the top line equipment of what they were using, which was totally state-of-the-art. And I'm sure there are things out there that's much better today. I mean, with technology, and 28 years later, I would certainly hope somebody would step up to the plate and make something much better. And I'm sure Shimano and Daiwa and a couple different other people that are real manufacturers out there, which have excellent reels. But all I'm saying is, it's just for the time frame that these were invented and these were out. These were definitely the workhorses, and I'm sure served a lot of people many years of good, reliable service. I did talk to a gentleman up in Canada, and he did tell me from his reel shop that the weakest part of these Bantams, for the most part in the mid-80s, were the pinion gears. And I got really lucky to be able to get my hands on one of the last few pinion gears this gentleman's shop had. And I'll kind of give a shout out to Mike's Reel Repair up in British Columbia, Canada, which they were excellent folks, excellent people, and helping me out and helping me get the remainder of the parts that they had. And I'd highly recommend them. Not a lot of places you can call somebody and get a live person immediately to answer all your questions, or at the time I could not find a specific schematic on these particular reels, especially the 2000, and Mike had really, or the staff at Mike's had really taken their time and searched through their file cabinets and said, 2 days later, here's the schematics for it. I wish you luck, and your parts are on their way. And I can't say enough good things about the folks up at Mike's Reel Repair. And hopefully, if you guys have any future endeavors that you need to have something fixed or need some parts for it, maybe give them a look up online, and I can't recommend them enough. So I hope you guys enjoyed this review, and or at least this mini review, and at least give you a better idea of what the mid-80s Bantam Magnumlite series bait cast reels look like, and a little bit more about it than what you could find maybe up to a few days ago. Thanks a lot for listening.